Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 11, Chapter 22, Enumeration of the Elements of Material Creation. This chapter enumerates categorizes the natural elements, explains the differences between the male and female natures, and describes birth and death. There are many opinions concerning the number of material elements, but this difference of opinions brought about by the influence of the illusory energy is not illogical. All the elements of nature exist everywhere, so authorities who have accepted the illusory potency of the Supreme Personality may propose a variety of theories. The insurmountable illusory energy of God is the root cause of their mutual contradictory arguments. There is no difference between the ultimate enjoyer and the Supreme Controller. To presuppose any distinction between them is senseless. Ordinary knowledge is simply a quality of material nature, not of the soul proper. The raw substance of material nature is designated according to its different phases. In the mode of goodness it is known as knowledge, in the mode of passion as activity, and in the mode of darkness as ignorance. Time is another name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and another name for material propensity is sūtra or mahat-tattva. The 25 elements of nature are the Lord's nature, the mahat, false ego, ether, air, fire, water, earth, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin, speech, the hands, the feet, and the genitals, the anus, the mind, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. The unmanifest Supreme Personality merely glances at nature, material nature, which is under the control of the Supreme Lord, then assumes the forms of causes and effects and carries out the creation, maintenance, and destination and destruction of the material world. Even though the Purusha and Prakriti appear non-different to superficial vision, there is an ultimate difference between the two. Material creation is produced from the modes of Prakriti, and its quality is transformation. The living entities who are inimical to the Supreme Personality of Godhead take on and give up various kinds of material bodies through the agency of their own material work. But those who are ignorant of the self because of being bewildered by illusion do not understand this. The mind, which is filled with ideas of fruitive work, simply takes the senses visit from one body to another, while the soul follows along. Nevertheless, on account of being totally absorbed in sense gratification, one cannot remember his past existence. The body undergoes 9 stages of manifestation, which are brought about by association with the qualities of material nature. These are impregnation, gestation, birth, childhood, youth, maturity, middle age, old age, and death. From the death of one's father and the birth of one's son, a person can easily comprehend the rise and fall of his own body. The soul, who is the perceiver, is different from this body, but when there is no knowledge of the true facts, the living entity, confused by the objects of sense gratification, achieves his destinations within the cycle of material existence. Thus the living entity continuously wanders under the spell of material work, taking birth as a sage or a demigod when he is predominated by the mode of goodness, among the demons or human beings when he is predominantly influenced by the mode of passion, and in the species of ghosts, spirits, or animals when he is predominated by the mode of ignorance. The spirit soul does not engage in the enjoyment of sense objects, rather it is the senses that perform this activity. Therefore the living entity has no actual need for sense gratificatory pleasures, with the exception of those peaceful personalities who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and are dedicated to the divine duty of his service. Everyone, including so-called learned scholars, is inevitably overcome by the all-powerful material nature. Text 1, 2, 3. Shri Uddhava Vacha Kati-tattvani Vishvesha Sankyatani Rishibhihi Prabho Navaikadasha Panchatrini Athatvam Miha Sushruma Kechit Sadvimshatim Prahur apare panchavimshatim saptaikena va satkechit chatvari kadasha pare kechit saptadasha prahuhu sodasaike trayodasa etavatvam hi sankhyanam rishayo yat vivakshaya gayanti prithak ayushman idam no vaktumarhasi. Translation. Uddhava inquired, My dear Lord, O Master of the universe, how many different elements of creation have been enumerated by the great sages? I have heard you personally describe a total of 28, God, the Jiva soul, the mahat-tattva, false ego, the 5 gross elements, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 subtle objects of perception, and the 3 modes of nature. But some authorities say that there are 26 elements, while others cite 25 or else 7, 9, 6, 4, or 11. And even others say that there are 17, 16, or 13. What did each of these sages have in mind when he calculated the creative elements in such different ways or Supreme Eternal kindly explain this to me, purport. Lord Krishna thoroughly explained in the previous chapter that Vedic knowledge is not meant for sense gratification, but for liberation from material bondage. Now Uddhava presents some intermediate questions that must be answered so the path of liberation will be clear. Different philosophers have historically disagreed over the exact number of material elements, about the existence and non-existence of particular external objects, and about the existence of the soul itself. The Jnana-kanda section of the Vedas aims at liberation through analytic understanding of the material world and of the spirit soul as a transcendental element beyond matter. Ultimately, the Supreme Lord Himself stands above all elements and maintains them by His personal potency. Uddhava mentions in numerical terms different methodologies of various sages, citing first the Lord's own opinion. The word Ayushman, or possessing eternal form, is significant in this regard. Since Lord Krishna is eternal, He possesses all knowledge of past, present, and future, and is thus the original and supreme philosopher. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the different analytic approaches mentioned by Sri Uddhava are actually not contradictory. Since they are different methods of categorizing the same reality, atheistic speculation on reality does not recognize the existence of God. Consequently, it is a worthless attempt to explain the truth. The Lord Himself empowers different living entities to speculate and speak on reality in different ways. The actual reality, however, is the Lord Himself, who will now speak to Sri Uddhava. Text 4. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yuktam Cha Shanti Sarvatra Bhashanti Brahmana Yatha Mayam Madhyam Udgrihya Vadatam Kim Nu Durghatam. Translation. Lord Krishna replied, Because all material elements are present everywhere, it is reasonable that different learned Brahmins have analyzed them in different ways. All such philosophers spoke under the shelter of my mystic potency, and thus they could say anything without contradicting the truth. Purport. The word Shanti Sarvatra in this verse indicate that all material elements are found within each other in gross and subtle forms. In this way, there are innumerable ways to categorically describe them. The material world is ultimately illusory, undergoing constant transformation. It may be measured in different ways, just as the mirage of an oasis may be described in different ways, but the Lord's own analysis of 28 elements is perfect and should be accepted. Srila Jiva Goswami states that the word Maya in this verse does not refer to Mahamaya or the potency of ignorance, but to the Lord's inconceivable mystic power which shelters the learned followers of Vedic knowledge. Each of the philosophers mentioned here reveals a particular aspect of truth, and their theory are not contradictory since they are simply describing the same phenomena with different categorical systems. Such philosophical disagreement is endless within the material world, thus everyone should unite on the platform of the Lord's own opinion as stated in this verse. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna requests all conditioned souls to give up their various forms of worship and surrender unto Him in full Krishna consciousness, becoming His devotees. Thus the whole universe can be united in love of Godhead by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By the Lord's revealing Himself to a sincere devotee, the controversy of analytic philosophy is ended. Text 5. Naitat evam yatha tattvam yadaham vachmi tat tatha evam vivadatam thetum shaktayo meduratyaya. Translation. When philosophers argue, I don't choose to analyze this particular case in the same way that you have. It is simply my own insurmountable energies that are motivating their analytic disagreements. Purport. Because of the material potency of the Supreme Lord, mundane philosophers are perpetually arguing about which came first, the chicken or the egg. By the influence of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, different philosophers are attracted to different views, and by the influence of the material atmosphere created by the Lord, these philosophers perpetually disagree with one another. The Supreme Lord Himself, however, has given the clear explanation, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.4.31. Yachaktayo vadatam vadinam vai Vivada samvada bhuvo bhavanti kurvanti chaisham muhuratma moham tasmai namo nanto gunaya bhumne. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, who possesses unlimited transcendental qualities, acting from within the cores of the hearts of all philosophers who propagate various views. He caused them to forget their own souls while sometimes agreeing and sometimes disagreeing among themselves. Thus He creates within this mature world a situation in which they are unable to come to a conclusion. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. Text 6. Yasam Vyatikaradasid Vikalpo Vadatam Padam Prapte Samadam Epyati Vadastam Manushamyati. Translation. By interaction of my energies, different opinions arise, but for those who have fixed their intelligence on me and control their senses, differences of perception disappear, and consequently the very cause for argument is removed. By interaction of my energies, different opinions arise, but for those who have fixed their intelligence on me and control their senses, differences of perception disappear, and consequently the very cause for argument is removed. Purport. Conflicting varieties of perception are created by the interaction of the Lord's material energy in the minds of different philosophers, who staunchly defend their opinions, stating this may be the cause, or perhaps that or the other, or this may not be the case, or perhaps that is not the case. Such logical or irrational proposing, doubting, counterposing, counteracting, etc. take thousands of different forms and become the basis of argument. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the basis of all existence, since everything emanates from the Lord, is maintained by the Lord, and at the same time, and at the end is merged to rest within the Lord. Lord Krishna is Para-tattva, the highest truth, underlying all other dependent truth. In a society of learned persons who have understood the personality of Godhead to be everything, there is no further cause of philosophical quarrel. Such unity of opinion is not based on the absence of philosophical inquiry, nor on the stifling of rational discussion, but is the natural result of spiritual enlightenment. So-called philosophers proudly boast that they are searching and researching for the absolute truth, yet they somehow consider one who has found the absolute truth to be less intelligent than one who has not found but it is searching. Because Lord Krishna is the absolute truth, one who fully surrenders to the Lord becomes the most learned person. Text 7. parasparanupravishat tattvanam purusharshaba paurvaparya prasankyanam yatha vaktur vivakshitam. Translation: O best among men, because subtle and gross elements mutually enter into one another, philosophers may calculate the number of basic material elements in different ways according to their personal desire. Purport: material creation takes place as a chain reaction in which subtle elements expand and transform into progressively denser elements. Since a cause is in a sense present within its effect, and the effect is subtly present within the cause, all subtle and gross elements have entered within one another. Thus one may categorize basic material elements in many different ways, assigning various numbers and names according to one's methodology. Although material philosophers proudly assume their individual theories to be supreme, they are all speculating according to their personal proclivities as described in this and the following verse. Text 8. Ekashmin api drishyante pravishtanitra cha purvasmin va parasmin va tatvani sarvashaha. Translation: all subtle material elements are actually present within their gross effects. Similarly, all gross elements are present within their subtle causes, since material creation takes place by progressive manifestation of elements from subtle to gross. Thus we can find all material elements within any single element. Purport: since material elements are present within each other, there are innumerable ways to construe and categorize the material creation of God. Ultimately, however, the significant element is God Himself, who is the basis of all the transformations and permutations of the material cosmos. The creation of the material world takes place by a progression from subtle to gross elements, as explained in the Sankhya Yoga system of Lord Kapila. The example may be given that we find the dormant existence of an earthen pot within mud, and also the existence of mud within the earthen pot. Similarly, one element is present within another, and ultimately all elements rest within the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is simultaneously within everything. By such explanations, Krishna consciousness constitutes the ultimate scientific methodology for factual understanding this universe. Text 9. Paurva paryamato misha prasankyanam apipshatam yatha viviktam yat vaktram grignimo vyukti sambhavat. Translation: therefore, no matter which of these thinkers is speaking, and regardless of whether in their calculations they include material elements within their previous subtle causes or else within their subsequent manifest products, I accept their conclusions as authoritative, because a logical explanation can always be given for each of the different theories. Therefore, no matter which of these thinkers is speaking, and regardless of whether in their calculations they include material elements within their previous subtle causes or else within their subsequent manifest products, I accept their conclusions as authoritative, because a logical explanation can always be given for each of the different theories. Purport: although innumerable philosophers may rationally describe the material creation from different points of view, one cannot perfect one's knowledge without Krishna consciousness. An intellectual person should therefore not be falsely proud simply because he has ascertained a particular truth within the material world. The Lord here states that one who follows the Vedic way of analysis will undoubtedly have many insights concerning the material creation. Ultimately, however, one must become a devotee of the Supreme Lord and perfect one's knowledge in Krishna consciousness. Text 10. Anadi avidya vyuktasya purushashyatma vidanam svato na sambhavadanyas tattva jnano do bhavet. Translation: Because a person who has been covered by ignorance since time immemorial is not capable of effecting his own self-realization, there must be some other personality who is in factual knowledge of the absolute truth and can impart this knowledge to him. Purport: although the Lord tolerates different methods of calculating material causes within their effects and material effects within their causes, there cannot be any speculation regarding the two spiritual elements found in this universe, namely the individual soul and the supersoul. Lord Krishna clearly states in this verse that the living entity is incapable of effecting his own enlightenment. The Supreme Lord is Tattvagya, omniscient, and Jnanada, the spiritual master of the entire universe. Sri Uddhava mentioned that some philosophers describe 25 elements and others 26. The difference is that the 26 elements include a separate category for the individual soul, and the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, whereas the proponents of 25 elements artificially merge the two transcendental categories of Jiva-tattva and Vishnu-tattva, hiding the eternal supremacy of the personality of Godhead. Knowledge based on the three modes of material nature cannot rise to the transcendental platform where the personality of Godhead exists. As the supreme enjoyer of eternal spiritual varieties of form, color, flavor, musical sounds, and loving affairs, mundane philosophers simply bounce back and forth between material enjoyment and material renunciation. Being victims of Mayavada impersonal perception of the absolute truth, they cannot achieve the shelter of the personality of Godhead, and thus cannot understand him. Because foolish impersonal philosophers consider themselves supreme, they are unable to appreciate that loving service exists on the spiritual platform. Stubbornly rejecting subservience to the personality of Godhead, the impersonalists are eventually overwhelmed by the illusory potency of the Lord and undergo the miseries of material existence. The Vaishnavas, on the other hand, are not envious of the personality of Godhead. They gladly accept his shelter and supremacy, and thus the Lord personally takes charge of his devotees and enlightens them, filling them with his own transcendental bliss. Spiritual service to the Supreme Lord is in this way free from the disappointment and repression of material service. Text 11. Purusheshvarayoratra na vailakshanyam anvapi tadanya kalpana parta jnanam cha prakritir gunaha. Translation: according to knowledge in the material mode of goodness, there is no qualitative difference between the living entity and the Supreme Controller. The imagination of qualitative difference between them is useless speculation. Purport: according to certain philosophers, there are 25 elements among which a single category is stipulated for both the individual living entity and the Supreme Lord. Such impersonal knowledge is declared by the Lord to be material. Jnanam cha prakritir gunaha. Such knowledge can, however, be accepted to establish the qualitative identity of the Supreme Lord and the living entities who expand from him. Materialistic persons sometimes believe that there is a Supreme Spirit in heaven, but also think that human beings are identical with their material bodies, and thus qualitatively and perpetually separated from the Supreme Lord. Knowledge of the Lord's qualitative oneness is the living entity as described in this verse, refutes the materialistic concept of life, and partially establishes the absolute truth. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes the actual situation as Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. The Supreme Controller and the controlled loving entities are simultaneously one and different. In the material mode of goodness, the oneness is perceived. As one proceeds further to the stage of Vishuddha Sattva or purified spiritual goodness, one finds spiritual variety within the qualitative oneness, completing one's knowledge of the absolute truth. The words na vailakshanam shanyam anvapi boldly affirm that the individual living entity is indisputably part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and qualitatively one with him. Any philosophical attempt to separate the living entity from the Supreme Lord and deny his eternal servitude to the Lord is thus refuted. Speculation arriving at the conclusion that the living entity has independent existence separate from the Lord is described here as aparta useless. Nevertheless, the theory of 25 elements is acceptable to the Lord as a preliminary phase in the evolution of spiritual knowledge. Text 12. Prakritir guna samyam vai prakritir natmano gunaha Sattvam rajastamaiti sthiti utpatti anta hetavaha. Translation. Nature exists originally as the equilibrium of the three material modes, which pertain only to nature, not to the transcendental spirit soul. These modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are the effective causes of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 3.27 it is stated, Prakrite kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimutatma kartahamiti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by nature. The three modes of nature in their original state of equilibrium as well as the subsequent creation generated from the modes are vastly more powerful than the tiny living entity who is controlled by them. The living entity thus cannot be accepted as the actual doer or creator within the material world. The mode of goodness is symptomized by the experience of knowledge, the mode of passion by the experience of work, and the mode of ignorance by the experience of darkness. These modes of material knowledge, work, and darkness have no real relation with the transcendental spirit soul, who exhibits his own qualities of eternality, bliss, and knowledge. The Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini potencies of the Supreme Lord. The material modes have no access within the kingdom of God, in the unbounded atmosphere of which the eternal living entity is meant to live. Text 13. Sattvam jnanam rajaha karma tamo jnanam mihochyate gunavyati karaha kalaha sabhavaha sutramevacha. Translation. In this world, the mode of goodness is recognized as knowledge, the mode of passion as fruit of work, and the mode of darkness as ignorance. Time is perceived as the agitated interaction of the material modes, and the totality of functional propensity is embodied by the primeval sūtra or mahat-tattva. Purport. The impetus for the interaction of the material elements is the forward movement of time. Because time is passing, the embryo grows within the womb, gradually comes out, grows up, produces byproducts, dwindles, and dies. All of this is due to the pushing of time. In the absence of the time factor, the material elements do not interact but remain inert in the form of pradhana. Lord Krishna is establishing the basic categories of the material world so that human beings can conceive of the Lord's creation. Were the categories not condensed, analysis and conceptualization would be impossible, since the Lord's potencies are infinite. Although there are numerous divisions of material elements within the basic division, the spirit soul is always to be understood as a distinct transcendental element meant for residence in the kingdom of God. Text 14. Purushaha prakritir vyaktam ahankaro napo nilaha jyotirap apaha kshitiriti tattvani uktani menava. Translation. I have described the 9 basic elements as the enjoying soul, nature, nature's primal manifestation of the mahat-tattva, false ego, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Purport. Prakriti or nature is originally unmanifest and later becomes manifest as the mahat-tattva. Although the living entity is Purusha, an enjoyer, the real process by which he can enjoy is by satisfying the transcendental senses of the Lord. Just as the hand eats by supplying food to the stomach, within material nature the living entity becomes a false enjoyer, forgetting his subservience to the Lord. The material elements, as well as the living entity and the supersoul, are thus systematically analyzed to demonstrate to the conditioned soul his actual constitutional position beyond material nature. Text 15. Srotram tvagdarshanam grano jiviti jnanasaktayah vakpani upasta paiv angrihi karmani angobhayam manaha. Translation. Hearing, touch, sight, smell, and taste are the five knowledge-acquiring senses, my dear Uddhava, and speech, the hands, the genitals, the anus, and the legs constitute the five working senses. The mind belongs to both these categories. Purport. 11 elements are mentioned in this verse. Text 16. Sabdaha sparsho raso gandho rupam chatyartha jatayaha gati ukti utsarga shilpani karmayatana siddhayaha. Translation. Sound, touch, taste, smell, and form are the objects of the knowledge-acquiring senses, and movement, speech, exertion, excretion, and manufacture are functions of the working senses. Purport. Here the word utsarga refers to evacuation by the genitals and anus, and thus constitutes two elements. In this way, 10 elements are listed here in two sets of 5. Text 17. Sargadau prakritirhyasya karyakarana rupini sattvadibhir gunairdatte purusho vyakta ikshate. Translation. In the beginning of creation, nature assumes, by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, its form as the embodiment of all subtle causes and gross manifestations within the universe. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not enter the interactions of material manifestation, but merely glances upon nature. Purport. The personality of Godhead is not subject to transformation like the subtle and gross material elements. Thus the Lord is avyakta, or not materially manifest at any stage of cosmic evolution, regardless of the specific method of cataloging the material elements. The Lord remains the ultimate creator, maintainer, and annihilator of the total cosmic situation. Text 18. Vyaktadayo vikurvana datavaha purushekshaya labdha viryaha srunjanti andam samhataha prakritir balat. Translation. As the material elements headed by the mahat-tattva are transformed, they receive their specific potencies from the glance of the Supreme Lord, and being amalgamated by the power of nature, they create the universal ego. Text 19. Saptaiva dhatavaiti tatrarthaha panchakadayaha yanam atmo bhayadharas tato dehendriya sabaha. Translation. According to some philosophers, there are 7 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, along with the conscious spirit soul and the supreme soul, who is the basis of both the material elements and the ordinary spirit soul. According to this theory, the body, senses, life, air, and all material phenomena are produced from these 7 elements. Purport. Having explained his own viewpoint, the Lord now summarizes various other analytic methodologies. Text 20. Sat iti atrapi bhutani panchasashtaha paraha puman tairyukta atma sambhutaihi shrishtvvedam samupavishat. Translation. Other philosophers state that there are 6 elements, the 5 physical elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and the 6th element, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, that Supreme Lord, endowed with the elements that He has brought forth from Himself, creates this universe and then personally enters within it. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami states that according to this philosophy, the ordinary living entity is included within the category of the Supersoul. This theory thus accepts only the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the five physical elements. Text 21. Chattvari iviti tatrapi tejaponnam atmanaha jatani tairidam jatam janmavaya vinaha kalu. Translation. Some philosophers propose the existence of four basic elements, of which three, fire, water, and earth, emanate from the fourth, the self. Once existing, these elements produce the cosmic manifestation in which all material creation takes place. Text 22. Sankyane saptadashake bhuta matrindriyani cha pancha panchaika manasa atma saptadashaha smritaha. Translation. Some calculate the existence of 17 basic elements, namely the 5 gross elements, the 5 objects of perception, the 5 sensory organs, the mind, and the soul as the 17th element. Text 23. Tadvat sodasha sankyane atmaiva mana uchyate bhutendriyani panchaiva mana atma trayodasha. Translation. According to the calculation of 16 elements, the only difference from the previous theory is that the soul is identified with the mind. If we think in terms of 5 physical elements, 5 senses, the mind, the individual soul, and the Supreme Lord, there are 13 elements. Purport. According to the theory of 13 elements, the sense objects, aroma, taste, form, touch, and sound, are considered byproducts of the interaction of the senses by physical matter. Text 24. Ekadashatva atmasau mahabhutendriyani cha astau prakritayaschaiva purushascha navedatha. Translation. Counting 11, there are the soul, the gross elements, and the senses. 8 gross and subtle elements plus the Supreme Lord would make 9. Text 25. Iti nana prasankyanam tattvanam shipihi kritam sarvam nyayam yuktimatvad vidusham kimmasobhanam. Translation. Thus great philosophers have analyzed the material elements in many different ways. All of their proposals are reasonable, since they are all presented with ample logic. Indeed, such philosophical brilliance is expected of the truly learned. Purport. The material world has been analyzed in innumerable ways by innumerable brilliant philosophers, but the conclusion is always one: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Aspiring philosophers need not waste their precious time showing off their intellectual brilliance, because there is little left to analyze on the material platform. One should simply surrender to the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Element, the Lord Shri Krishna, and uncover one's eternal consciousness of God. Text 26. Shri Uddhava Vacha Prakritihi Purushaha Chobhav Yadi Api Atma Vilakshana Anyonyapashrayat Krishna Drishyate na Bhidatayoho Prakritau Lakshate Hyatma Prakritischa Tathatmani. Translation. Sri Uddhava inquired, although nature and the living entity are continually distinct, O Lord Krishna, there appears to be no difference between them, because they are found residing within one another. Thus the soul appears to be within nature, and nature within the soul. Purport. Sri Uddhava here expresses the doubt that arises in the heart of an ordinary conditioned soul. Although the Vedic scriptures declare that the material body is a temporary fabrication of the material modes of nature, the conscious living entity within the body is actually an eternal spirit soul. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has declared the material elements constituting the body to be his separated inferior energy, whereas the living entity is the superior conscious energy of the Lord. Still, in conditioned life, the material body and conditioned soul appear inseparably and thus non-different. Because the living entity enters the womb of a mother and gradually comes out in a developed body, the soul appears to have entered deeply within material nature. Similarly, by the soul's identification with the material body, the body appears to enter deeply within the consciousness of the soul. What is more, the body cannot exist without the presence of the soul. By this apparent mutual dependence, the difference between the body and soul is obscured. Sri Uddhava therefore questions the Lord in order to clarify this issue. Text 27. Evam me pundarikaksha mahantam samshayam hridi chettum arhasi sarvajya vachobirnaya naipunaihi. Translation: O lotus-eyed Krishna, O omniscient Lord, kindly cut this great doubt out of my heart with your own words, which exhibit your great skill in reasoning. Purport: Sri Uddhava requests Lord Krishna to clearly demonstrate the difference between the material body and the spirit soul. Text 28. Tvatto janam hi jivanam pramoshasthetra shakti titaha tvameva hi atmamayaya gatim vidhana chaparaha. Translation: From you alone the knowledge of the living beings arises, and by your potency that knowledge is stolen away. Indeed, no one but yourself can understand the real nature of your illusory potency. Purport: As stated in Bhagavad Gita, matta smritir janam apohanam cha. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By the Lord's causeless mercy, one is enlightened with knowledge, and by the Lord's illusory potency that knowledge vanishes and one is merged into ignorance. Those bewildered by Maya cannot understand the difference between the material body and the spirit soul, and thus should hear from the Lord himself to remove this illusory covering. Text 29. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prakriti Purushasthiti Vikalpaha Purusharshaba Esha Vaikarikaha Sargo Gunavyatikaratmakaha. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O best among men, material nature and its enjoyer are clearly distinct. This manifest creation undergoes constant transformation, being founded upon the agitation of the modes of nature. Purport: The word Purusha indicates the living entity and also the Supreme Lord, who is the supreme living entity. Material nature, subject to transformation, is full of duality, whereas the Lord is one and absolute. Material nature is dependent on its creator, maintainer, and annihilator. The Lord, however, is completely self-reliant, reliant, and independent. In the same way, material nature is unconscious and dull, lacking self-awareness, whereas the Supreme Lord is self-sufficient, omniscient. The individual living entity shares the eternality, bliss, and knowledge of the personality of Godhead and is also completely distinct from material nature. The word sarga here refers to the material amalgamation of the body, which covers the living entity. The material body undergoes constant transformation and is thus clearly different from the living entity, who is eternally the same. In the transcendental kingdom of God, there is no conflict or agitation caused by creation, maintenance, and destruction as exhibited in the material world. There all varieties result in the transcendental loving experience of Krishna consciousness, the natural constitutional position of the soul. Text 30. Mamangamaya gunamaya nikada vikalpa buddhischa gunairvidhate vaikarikastri vidho yatmamekam Athathi daivam athi bhutam manyat. Translation. My dear Uddhava, my material energy, comprising three modes and acting through them, manifests the variety of creation along with varieties of consciousness for perceiving them. The manifest result of material transformation is understood in three aspects: adhyatmic, adhidaivic, and adhibhautic. Purport. The word vikalpa buddhi indicates that consciousness within various material bodies reveals different aspects of the Lord's creation. Birds such as seagulls glide on the ocean breezes, experiencing the Lord's creation of wind and altitude. The fish experiences life within the water, and other creatures intimately experience life within trees or within the earth. Human society affords its own varieties of awareness, and similarly, in heaven and hell, different experiences are available. All types of material consciousness are transformations of the three modes of material nature, the expansions of the Lord's illusory energy. Text 31. Drikrupam markam vapuratrarandhre parasparam sityate yaha swataha khe Atma yat esham aparo ya adyah sayanubhutya kila sitha sitihi. Translation. Sight, visible form, and the reflected image of the sun within the aperture of the eye all work together to reveal one another. But the original sun standing in the sky is self-manifested. Similarly, the Supreme Soul, the original cause of all entities, who is thus separate from all of them, acts by the illumination of his own transcendental experience as the ultimate source of manifestation of all material manifesting objects. Purport. Form is recognized by the function of the eye, and the eye's function is understood by the presence of perceivable form. This interaction of sight and form further depends on the presence of light provided by the demigods, whose service of universal management depends on the presence of those who are to be managed, namely the living entities experiencing from with their eyes, form with their eyes. Thus the three factors adhyatma, represented by the senses such as the eye, adhibhuta, the sense objects such as form, and adhidaiva, the influence of the controlling deities, exist in an interdependent relationship. The sun globe itself is said to be self-manifest, self-luminous, and self-experiencing. It does not share the independence of the senses and sense objects, although facilitating their function. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead facilitates the interdependent experiences of all living entities. For example, newspapers, radio, television reveal world events to the mass of people. Parents reveal facts about life to their children, teachers to their students, friends to friends, and so on. The government manifests its will to the people, and the people to their government. The sun and moon reveal the visual forms of all objects, and the perception of sound reveals audible form. The vibrations of particular types of music or rhetoric reveal the inner feelings of the other beings, and other types of knowledge are revealed by aroma, touch, and taste. In this way, through the interaction of the senses and mind with innumerable sense objects, different types of knowledge are acquired. All such informative interactions, however, depend upon the supreme illuminating power of the Personality of Godhead. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Yat Chakshureva Savita Sakala Grahanam, among all the planets, the sun is considered the eye of the Supreme Lord. The Personality of Godhead is eternally omniscient by his own transcendental potency, and thus no one can reveal anything to the Lord about anything. Still, Lord Krishna humbly accepts our prayers offered in Krishna consciousness. In conclusion, Lord Krishna clearly explains here that His sublime characteristics are completely different from those of the manifest universe. The Lord is therefore the supreme transcendental entity free from all material influence.